Well, we're here at the Empire Big Screen Weekend here at the O2, and we're going to be talking about the legend of stop-motion animation. There's only one guy really who really started it all off, and that's Ray Harryhausen. I'm joined by Mr. Tony Dalton, who is a great friend and film historian. Tell me a bit about your career in the start, Tony.
My career, well, I became a film historian by mistake, really. I worked for the British Film Institute and then Granada Television. And we used to do a series called Clapperboard at Granada Television, which I'm sure some people remember. I wasn't hugely involved in it, but on the periphery. I met Ray many years before that, doing an article for the BFI, and then we did we did several on-stage interviews. And then I met him when he was doing Clash of the Titans again for Clapperboard. So, but film historian, it's just that I love movies. I know a little bit about movies, is what I would say. But it's a nice title to have.
Now, to take you back to various stages of Ray's career, I'll take you back to maybe his inspirations and how he started off. What were his inspirations in the start?
Well, he had one inspiration, one point in his life, and that was King Kong. He went to see King Kong in 1933.
It's Willis O'Brien.
Willis O'Brien created King Kong and animated King Kong. It was directed by Ernest Schudsack and Miriam Cooper. And Ray went to Grauman's Chinese Theatre in Los Angeles with his aunt and his mother. He was 13 years old, and he went there and was just knocked out. He loved gorilla movies. But this one was the ultimate gorilla movie. And not only gorillas, it had dinosaurs in it. And Ray had been looking at dinosaurs at the Los Angeles County Museum, where you can see some of them. And Charles Knight was the painter. Charles Knight was a painter that originally put flesh on the bones of dinosaurs as a painter. So that was another inspiration of Ray. But it was King Kong. It was King Kong. And of course, in those days, they didn't have DVDs and books telling you how things were done. So it took him several years to discover how things were done, and then he heard about this great process called stop-motion animation, and that's how it was done.
Now, there was a technique involved called Dynamation, wasn't there, which he was involved with. Can you explain a bit more about what that involved?
That came later. Willis O'Brien used to animate what we call the sandwich animation, where you have a front glass with painted vegetation on it. And then you've got the animation table, and then you've got maybe another glass behind that with more vegetation to give it depth.
Right. Yeah.
They hadn't invented. They put mats into it and into King Kong, but they're pretty static. So when Ray went off on his own, and that's how they made Mighty Joe Young in 1948-49, which Ray worked with Willis O'Brien. Oscar winner, yes. Yeah. Which Obie O'Brien had the Oscar for. Miriam C. Cooper gave him the Oscar, quite rightly. He went off on his own to make The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And that he had to make for next to nothing. And in fact, I was just saying to somebody, it cost him money to make that film because he wanted to make it and show that the process would work, where it was called a split screen process, where you literally split the screen on a glass. It's quite complicated to explain, but you literally split the live action and you inserted the model into that. And it comes out looking like the model is in the live action.
The miniature in the back screen.
That's right, the rear projection screen. Yes. It gives it dimension. You don't need all the glasses of pane glasses with painted, so it gives the dimension. It's cheaper, much cheaper. So he had to find this cheap method, and he did, and it's called the split screen process, which of course became Dynamation when Charles Schneer invented the name for Seventh Voyage of Sinbad.
Oh. And now Ray was obviously involved in the animation in most of his movies, but he did become involved in a lot of the pre-production as well, didn't he?
I would say he was totally involved. Not only pre-production, he used to write some of the scripts as well, some of the step outlines, and then the scriptwriter would get it. Ray would put all the key sequences in and say, that's what I would like to do. Some of them were knocked out, some of them were kept, some of them were developed. But basically, everything you see, key animation scenes, are all Ray's concept, his imagination. With obviously a lot of input from Charles Schneer, the producer, the director, depends what director it is, and the screenwriter. But basically, he's on it from day one. When he was finishing The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, he was working on the next one because he'd written a story that actually is the two films. And he split them up, so they made two different films of it. It was going to be one film with the baboon, but it became Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger.
He's really influenced sort of a lot of animation, like sort of the Tim Burtons, even the Spielbergs to this day, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean, you name any fantasy filmmaker or non-fantasy filmmaker, even Frank Darabont is a huge fan of Ray. I mean, even, bless him, he's a great guy. But Peter Jackson, Spielberg, Lucas, Cameron, Nick Park, I mean, you know, was hugely affected by Ray's work. But it's the movement, it's the style of movement.
Well, sorry about that. Talking about the movement, I just thought, well, when you mentioned that, we've got some of the characters from the movies here.
Indeed.
Can you explain us the process of the skeleton right the way through to what goes on to a model and then to the end product with something like this? I noticed this is Jason and the Argonauts, isn't it?
This is an original. They're all original models, by the way. This is an original model of one of the 7 skeletons from Jason and the Argonauts. And look how tiny he is. I mean, everybody says, why? They're so tiny. Well, what Ray used to do is shrink the actors to fit with his creatures, which you can do on a rear projection screen, of course. But this is an original model. It's made of a metal armature. Inside there, and all of them, this is a small version, this was one made for a homunculus that was never built, is a ball and socket armature or hinge armature inside of that. And then this is wrapped in cotton wool and latex, dipped in latex. So to create the bones, the skull is resin, and it all moves. It all absolutely moves.
Very tiny movements, sort of
every
split
tiny
seconds,
movement. The jaws move, everything. It is extraordinary. And you know, by animating this, this will keep a pose. So one frame will be shot, and then you pose it, and then another frame will be shot. You pose it again, and so it will create a movement, whether it's a walking movement, a jumping movement, or an aggressive movement. But these are the original models. This one is, what, 50 years old now, and it still looks pretty good. And it's had no restoration at all. But some of them have. Unfortunately, we've got 2 other models here.
How long would a scene take to do the skeleton scene, say, for example, in Jason the Argonauts? How long would that take from start to finish?
A long time in this case. It was 4.5 months just to shoot that one sequence. Because don't forget, you've got all the appendages. You haven't just got a skeleton moving. It's you've got to move the arms, you've got to move the legs, you've got to move the head, you've got to have it reacting, it's got to turn its head, and it's got to sword fight. It's got to fight with the live actors. It's a hugely, and all that has to be pre-planned. If it's not, then of course it's not going to work. Of
course, yeah.
And Ray pre-planned everything. Caroline, who's with us today, Carolyn Monroe, knew she had a script with all the storyboards in it, everything, and she didn't know what she was going to look at until she looked at, you know, the centaur, which is this one.
I think it's easy to see. I was talking to my colleague earlier, and it's easy to see how this has influenced, say, fighting skeletons in The Mummy. You see a lot of movies where, and this has obviously come from something like that.
Yes, no, oh, definitely, all of those influences. I think it's the troll in Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, I can't remember the proper name of it. That's very much the Cyclops from Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and Peter Jackson admits that. So did Randy Cook. So at the end of the day, Ray was influenced by King Kong and lots of other things, and then other people are now influenced by Ray's art, which it is an art. It is extraordinary.
Just explain us just briefly about the other 2 models.
This is a small model of Carolyn Monroe, looking a little bit. She looks much better in the flesh, I have to tell you, but it's beginning to show its age now, which is what, 30, 40 years now. And this is the model that you see in the film, carried away by the centaur as she faints, and then the centaur, which is this one.
Yep.
Sorry.
Bring that forward.
It's very heavy.
Wow.
These armatures are exceptionally heavy. And this is the original centaur seen in the film with his David Bowie hairstyle. And this is exactly as you see him in the film. He's had a little bit of restoration, but basically as you see him in the film. And this is the animation model. So, and Ray went to study. He would go to Regent Zoo because he lived here since about 1960. He went to Regent Zoo to see how horses moved, how creatures would move if there was a centaur, you know, to try and put different movements into them. But you've got to put a human movement into it because it's
certainly
half human.
Man, yeah.
So is that element. And you notice the arms are back.
Yes.
I once asked him why, you know, it's a great movement, that, because it's quite threatening if you push your arms back and do that, like the centaur did in Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. And he said, I didn't know what else to do with the arms, so I just pushed them back. So they, you know, they didn't get, they weren't waving around everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you push them back like that, easy.
What does, just very briefly, obviously 1981 Clash of the Titans is now being remade. What does Ray think of remakes in general, of his original ideas, you know, some more?
He regrets, like I think this is partially my words and Ray's words coming out. He regrets, like I, that people haven't got the imagination to make new material. That's not to criticise any remakes at all, but I think it's a pity that, that we go back to what other people have done 20, 30, 50 years ago and make sequels to them or prequels to them or remakes of them. I didn't see Clash of the Titans, nor has Ray. Ray didn't get any concessions from that movie at all, even though he designed everything in the original movie. But basically, he says CG is another tool. I think that's exactly right. We're just seeing it in a different way. The problem is everybody wants to remake everything in CG, and it doesn't always work. I won't give you any examples. I'm too discreet.
Finally today, Tony, I'd just like to say thank you for coming to see us today.
Pleasure.
But obviously Ray is still working today, and he's still inspiring movie makers even today.
He's 91,
Yeah.
92, going 92. He doesn't work anymore, but he likes to be involved. He likes to meet young filmmakers. We've got a new book coming out in November, the fifth book coming out in November. Can't believe we've written 5 books. And that we're having a competition for young filmmakers to do. We'd like at some point to do a student grant at some point in the future. The collection is all going to the National Media Museum in Bradford. So we're doing that. I do that with Ray. He doesn't travel anymore, but I do that with Ray almost every week. We sit down and talk about what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, with Ray's daughter, Vanessa, and the other trustees of the foundation. So it's all going to be there for the future. The trouble is, in 100 years' time or 50 years' time, this won't be here because you can only preserve so far. Yeah. And eventually this will come down just to some fur and an armature, which is the tragic thing about it. But at least we've documented it. You filmed it today, so that's good.
And thank you for joining us, Tony,
Pleasure.
talking about the legend, of course, Ray Harryhausen.
Pleasure.